Are you ready to be empowered to live a life of emotional and financial freedom? Well, welcome to Freedom Starts Now. It's the show educating, entertaining, and inspiring with experts around the globe excited to guide you on a journey of exploration. And now, here's your host and freedom facilitator, Karen Theimer.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Freedom Starts Now. Oh, it's a great day. Put in the comments where you're chiming in from. I'm here from Ontario, Canada, and it's nice and sunny here. So Freedom Starts Now is all about you taking that time to go, I am tired, or making that decision to say, hey, I'm tired of living the life that I'm living and I want to make a difference. And it just starts with making that decision to go, I'm going to find those people to help me move forward. So I'm excited about my guest today. His name is Walt Thiessen. And in 2000, and actually, I'm going to bring him up first on the thing here, on the stage here. That's it.
Hello.
Hello, Walt. How are you?
I'm fine.
Oh, that's awesome. So Walt here in 2008, his business got wiped out with the onset of the financial crisis as all of his small nonprofit clients disappeared or drastically cut their annual budgets because no one gives money to a charity during a financial crisis.
It's true.
It's so true, right?
Mm.
And Walt's wife, her business also got wiped out in 2008. And in her case, because people stopped hiring her gardening services company for the same reason. By 2012, the two of them were very deep in debt and struggling to survive financially. I totally hear you on that one.
Oh, it was rough.
Oh, I bet. And Walt couldn't even afford to buy self-help books, let alone hire a business coach. Right? I hear you, because when we're going through this, the last thing we want, can do is be investing in that, right?
Yeah.
So and we'll definitely get more into that one. And the only thing he could think of was to do and start his own podcast about the law of attraction, my favorite subject, and bring on expert guests to teach him what he needed to learn. And the plan succeeded. 10 years later, Walt is about to celebrate 10th year anniversary of his podcast, LOA Today. I love it. In September, my favorite month of 2022, because it's my birthday month.
It is
like the month to celebrate.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. I'm at the end of the month and I'm a Libra.
Well, my anniversary is at the end of the month too.
What's the date?
26th.
My birthday is the 28th. So
that's close. It's also my wife's and my wedding anniversary. We started on our wedding anniversary.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, these podcasts have been a life changer. That's for sure. And thank you for being a guest today. So tell us more. Tell us,
my pleasure. Well, this is like twice the fun because you were on my podcast. Now I'm on your podcast. How much more fun can you have, right?
Exactly. We could keep going back and forth.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I loved being a guest on your podcast. It was so much fun. And I enjoyed meeting everybody. Thank you. Yeah. So tell us more about you. Tell us about that time where you went, oh my God, what am I going to do here?
That was a rough time. That was really rough because I hadn't done any work on myself. I didn't know what work I had to do on myself. I didn't know that you had to do work on yourself. Right. I was brought up in an era. I'm like at the end of the tail end of the baby boomer era. And I was brought up in an era where we were taught one thing: work hard all your life and you'll be rewarded for it. So I did, and I wasn't.
I hear ya.
And it was a shock, and I didn't know what to do. I had followed the rules. I had done exactly what I'd been taught, and it hadn't worked. And I what do you do at that point, right? So, like you described, the next 4 years after that financial crisis was pretty devastating. And I was struggling to try to rebuild my business, different clientele. Louise didn't even bother to try because she knew she wasn't going to get the gardening clients that she had before. She actually did other things. She did like daycare and stuff like that, but we were barely surviving. We were, like you said, we're going deeper and deeper in debt, and it was miserable. And like you said, I didn't know what else to do, so I started the podcast because I figured, well, that's a good way to get experts talking to you, and you don't have to pay them. It's a good thing.
Listened to podcasts before? Like, did you always listen to podcasts?
Not really. I wasn't. I had been doing an online radio show at that point on a different topic, and I was enjoying it enough that I figured, well, let's give this a shot, because at least I know the mechanics of, how do you do it, how do you get it going. It was at a time before we had Zoom, before we had StreamYard, before we had all the wonderful tools that we have today. So I had to kind of figure out, how do you do it? How do you make your own recordings? Fortunately, I have an IT background, so I was able to figure a lot of that stuff out.
That comes in handy.
The hardest part was figuring out how to do an interview. Because, the only thing you really had at that point was Google Hangouts, which is, anybody who's ever used that knows it's really kind of iffy as a platform. You can't really trust it. And so I couldn't really use that. So I actually found a piece of software at that point that would enable me to tap my own telephone, because that was the only way I could connect somebody in. And I would record off of that tap, and that became the podcast.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I didn't even know you could do that. So there you go.
I didn't know it either until I tried it.
That's awesome. You got to be a techie to do these things.
Well, you got to be a little daring too. That's part of what we learn, right? As we're doing this inner growth, you have to be willing to not just do the inner growth, but also take a chance to stretch outside your comfort zone. And that's really what happened. That was more than anything else that made the whole thing work for me. Is I went outside my comfort zone, which basically meant I was no longer comfortable. I wasn't. I was already feeling miserable, but so that wasn't really different. But now I had new misery. Like, oh my God, I'm doing stuff I haven't done before. But that's what made the change start to happen, because I started bringing in some great guests like yourself and others, who just taught me all the stuff I needed to learn. And then the amazing thing that came out of it was I loved it. I didn't expect that part. This stuff is this, Karen. This is addicting, right?
It is. It's so much fun.
It's incredible. You get such a high doing it every time. My subtitle of my show is Your Daily Dose of Happy, and I named it that because that's what it makes me. It makes me happy every time I do it.
And isn't that what we want? At the end of the day, really, right? Is to just have some happiness, have some joy in our life, right?
Exactly.
And some peace and ease, right?
And then when you get to the point where you're having the happiness and the joy, amazingly, that's when everything else starts to show up.
It's funny, how this works.
It's weird how that works. And they never gave us a manual. Why didn't they give us a manual?
I don't know.
Trying to figure this stuff out. Fortunately,
sorry, go ahead.
Well, a few years later, I had been exposed to The Secret. That's how I even knew about it at all. I had been exposed to other teachers before that. I had heard it. I had like the original Tony Robbins Unlimited Power cassette tape set from the 1980s.
Oh my God, a cassette tape. That's awesome.
So I'd listened to his stuff, and I'd read Napoleon Hill, and I'd read Dale Carnegie and so forth. But honestly, the whole concept of law of attraction didn't even make sense to me. Because I ran into the same kinds of things that other people have run into. You try it and it doesn't seem to work for you. And you wonder why it doesn't work. Is it all just a scam? All that kind of thing.
Yep.
And so I just kind of put it on the back burner for years. Plus, Napoleon Hill didn't help me at all on one particular point, because he writes in his book, I think he says it like 2 or 3 times during the book. He says, if you are, this is my phrasing, this isn't his phrasing. If you are spiritually on the same path I'm on, if you're getting what I'm talking about, I don't have to explain this to you. And my response was, I don't get this. You have to explain this to me.
Right?
So I had been exposed to the concepts, but I couldn't put them together. They didn't make any sense. The Secret started to put it together, but even there were some gaps. It really wasn't until a few years after I started the podcast that I was picking stuff up from my guests, and I also finally ran into Abraham Hicks, and that's where it all started to come together.
Yeah. Oh, amazing!
So that made a big difference.
Abraham and Esther. Yeah.
No, it's absolutely amazing. Plus, I've had the absolute pleasure and privilege to interview other channels on my podcast. Some of them are really good. One of them is just as good as Esther Hicks. Just mind-blowing. So that's also been really cool till you get exposed to all these really, really cool people doing this really cool stuff, and you say to yourself, wow, I wish I could do that.
It's so true, eh? Like, I have to say, like, I'm still figuring things out and still playing around with this show and everything, right? And I've interviewed close friends of mine. I've interviewed people that I met through the Matchmaker podcast group. I think that's that's where you and I met.
That's where we met, right? Yeah,
exactly, right. So there's so many amazing people out there doing amazing stuff, and everybody, same thing, right? You hit your rock bottom, whatever that rock bottom is for you, that pain, right? That pain that goes, time to make a change. Right, which is where I came up with the Freedom Starts Now, right? Because it really does start with making that decision to go, I want something better.
Yes.
And that's where it goes, right? So, and you've been doing this 10 years. That's so
10 years, yeah.
I love that.
10th anniversary this year. It's hard to believe.
Yeah.
Almost 1,800 episodes. I mean, I look at that number, I say, what? Where did 1,800 come from?
And where do you find like your people? Do you go on these different groups, like the podcaster groups,
I've gotten we met on Podmatch. I've gotten so many from Podmatch. I actually go there exclusively now. But when I first started, there was no place to go to, so I actually started just by going on Twitter and looking for people who are posting about law of attraction.
I've never been on Twitter. I have never been on Twitter. Sometimes I have a hard enough time just with Instagram and Facebook, right? So
sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, they can be intimidating, but no, I figured I'll just pick a source. I'll go there and see who I can find. And I actually found some really cool people right off the bat, right out of the gate.
Nice.
Including one who was my 12th interview, who became a co-host for me. He was my first regular co-host and stayed with me for about 5 or 6 years, something like that. His name is Joel Elston. And boy, did I learn a lot from Joel. Oh my God, that man is a great teacher.
Right. Yeah. Is he the one who's still on? No, who's on your show now?
He's not on the show currently. He occasionally comes back as a guest, but I've got right now 7 co-hosts, so I'm not sure which one you're thinking of.
Oh, I didn't realize you had so many co-hosts.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing it 5 days a week, and my goal is to have 10. I want 2 on every day plus a guest, because I'm finding that, I don't know what you found. I find that if you have 3 people on the show, it's the best energy. 2 is good, 4 is good, 3 for some reason is optimal. And I've had people tell me, people who are numerologists and so forth, tell me about the power of 3, and that 3 may actually be the more powerful number for a variety of reasons. They may be right. All I know is I experience it as being the most powerful number. So that's why I like having the co-hosts and the guests all at the same time. It's fun.
Oh, cool. Well, I really enjoyed being on your show. I was like, because that was different for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
sure.
There were 3. So you say the power of 3 hosts and then the 1 guest, right?
Usually 2 co-hosts, or me, a co-host, and a guest. So 3 of us.
Okay, got it. Okay, I'm with you now on this. My math isn't always the greatest, right?
Well, I didn't explain it well, so.
That's awesome. What would you say would be like your, I know you learn something, and the joy of doing these shows is you get that free coaching kind of thing, right?
Oh, yeah, it's great.
I always learn something from somebody. I'm always coming out of these shows going, I didn't know that, or I didn't realize that, or wow, like always some aha moment, which is great, right? And is there any like one particular show? I mean, I know you've done it. I know.
Out of 1,800, I got to pick one, really?
Well, but is there one that you just like really? I'm sure they all do, right? I'm sure they're all amazing.
Well, I love the perspectives, because that's what happens, right? You get all these different perspectives from all the different people who come onto your show. And that's what I get too. Those perspectives, I have come to really appreciate different perspectives, including the ones that I don't like.
Yeah.
That's what's really cool about it, because there are some, most of the people on the show I love. Every once in a while, I'll get somebody else say, "Oh my God, where did he come from?"
I'm like one of those, yeah.
But even them, I learned from. I learned stuff. If nothing else, I learned. Well, I don't want to be that, but I learn anyway, right?
Yeah. Wow.
And that's the best part. Those different perspectives. Every time you get a different perspective, I think what it really does is it helps you to stretch your own perspective.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because one of the things that we are taught when we're learning how to become enlightened is
I love how you say enlightened.
When you want to be enlightened, you learn to go within, right? And when you go within, you're trying to achieve perspective from within too. So in other words, like one of the best meditations that I've ever been presented with was one that basically takes you, I have an outer space background. It takes you out in outer space. It takes you millions of miles out, and then you look back at the planet Earth, which is this teeny tiny dot. And the perspective is that's how big your problems are.
That's so
Especially
true.
from the perspective of source.
Right.
That's perspective.
Yeah. And it's so true, really. Like our problems, we make it to be this ginormous thing. And yet the answer, thank you, Esther and Abraham Hicks, because they talk,
yes,
they are the best. Oh my God, how cool it would be to have them on our show, right?
Oh, wouldn't that be great? Oh,
I'm going to manifest that somehow.
Yeah, there you go.
I got to work on it because those two and or them and Dr. Joe Dispenza literally changed my life, right? Like just kind of like, oh, this is all just like, this is how our thoughts work and our feelings work. And it's a chemical reaction and yada, yada, yada. And we like to live in the past because that's more comfortable and the future is scary. And I mean, who knows about present, right? So it's, but as you learn, it's like these problems that we've made in such a big thing.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal. And the answers are so simple.
They are, which is really annoying.
Most of it is pretty simple.
It's very simple. Yeah. But it's always, oh, that was so simple. Why couldn't I think of that?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm expanding my coaching toolkit. So I've decided to take NLP, and I'm very excited because I'm like, I feel like I need some more tools and maybe a deeper understanding. So I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. And here, when you think you know a lot, and then you go, wow, I didn't realize I didn't know as much as I didn't know. But it's great because it leaves room to learn more, right? Yeah. But the more I learn about our mind, the more I'm like, holy moly, no wonder our minds are all over the place and we can't make a decision.
Yeah. Well, and the other way I look at it is, my God, we're incredibly powerful. Right? I mean, we may be like rockets, flying in 5 directions at once without somebody at the steering wheel, but oh my goodness, are we powerful? We
are very, very powerful.
Yeah.
We don't even realize. I don't even realize how powerful we are sometimes. Oh, yeah. And I went to a retreat, a nice healing retreat, and one of the things that the shamans had said was, because sometimes we feel like we're alone on this journey, right? Well, I'll speak for me. I can't speak for others, right? But for me, sometimes I'm like, I feel like I'm so alone and I have nobody to talk to. Yet look at the people in my life, right? It's like, I've got my podcast people to talk to and I've got this to talk. So it's not really like I'm alone, but I sometimes feel like it. And one of the things the shaman said, she's like, just so you know, you're never alone. You have yourself, right? And B, you have, the your angels and your spirit guides and all this, right? So, just call on them if you want help. So I was like, okay, fine. Anyway, came home from the retreat, was sort of in a funk, and, some emotions came up that I didn't like. I didn't like the feeling of it, but I also know it's important to go into it, but I didn't like it. And I went in kicking and screaming. But besides the point, after my 2 days of my little, I don't know, pity party, whatever I wanted to call it, right?
Hissy
my little
fit,
meh. Yeah, my hissy fit. I was like, okay, Karen, need to come back to this, right? So I was like, okay, the shaman says, okay, go call on your angels and everybody. All right, so I go for a walk in the country, and I'm like, okay, angels, spirit guides, master guides, I don't know, universe, God, whoever's out there listening to me. I don't really know what I'm doing, but how do I build trust, right? And how do you build trust, right? That got broken as a child. So anyway, I come and I said, show me in a way that I'll recognize.
Okay.
And I love that. That's my latest thing. So I come back home from my walk. I'm doing whatever. I happen to look at my phone. This notification comes up, and it's from YouTube of somebody I don't even follow. I follow now, but it was a meditation on how to build trust and connect to your spirit guides.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, geez, this stuff works fast.
It is. It's scary how fast it is.
Right. And then I resisted listening to him. Like, oh, I'll listen to it later because that's going to build trust. Right.
Yep.
Anyway, I was like, Karen, just sit your butt down. There's nothing else you need to do. And it was exactly what I needed. So I just wanted to share that with you.
I understand completely. In fact, I had a similar event recently. I mentioned that Louise's business got knocked out by the 2008 financial crisis.
Mhm.
After we've gotten back on our feet, part of the way we got back is we moved and reset up our business where we are now in Connecticut. We were previously in Virginia, and it has flourished. So that became like our number one income source, which was great.
Amazing.
This year's been a really strange year, and I won't go into all the details, but it's been strange for a lot of reasons: the economy, labor rates, all that kind of stuff. And we'd reached the point now where we were experiencing something we hadn't experienced before. All of a sudden, the jobs were slowing to a trickle. And I didn't have, even for the jobs I did have, I didn't have enough staff on hand. So, I was kind of like trying to avoid fretting about it, because that doesn't help. It actually harms. And I was trying to avoid getting worried about the money and all that kind of stuff. But at the moment you're talking about that, you're already worried, you're already fretting. So, it's time to do a little bit of a reset. So I kind of did the same thing. I put out there, I need some help, did my mental exercises that I do to do my reset. And within about 15 minutes, I went into the bedroom, I think it was, and my foot slipped on the floor.
Oh.
And I looked down, and there was a card on the floor. I can show you the card.
Yeah.
ZipRecruiter, post now, free job listing.
See, you asked and you received.
I mean, that was crazy.
It's so funny, eh? So did you phone them?
Yeah, oh yeah. Actually, I didn't even have to use ZipRecruiter, as it turned out. As it turned out, an ex-employee contacted me, somebody we really loved, and she says, "I'm back in the area. Can you hire me?" Like,
Oh,
well,
wow.
yeah.
I'm in. Oh, that's amazing.
Which illustrates, when the universe answers your request, it doesn't just do it once.
Mm-hmm.
It actually keeps doing it until you say, "Okay, I'll take that one."
Yeah. Yeah. So you finally that's why I think for me, why I started doing it, show me in a way I'll recognize.
Yes.
And I'm
I love
finding,
that was great.
yeah, I'm finding that's really working.
Yeah.
Because, we see things all the time and we're not always aware of what's around us or the answer until it really bashes you one and goes, "Hello, are you paying attention?"
Yep.
One of the hats I wear is I'm a massage therapist.
Ooh.
And I always tell people, like my clients and stuff, our body speaks a language. It's just not in whatever your native language is, right? So we'll say English here, right? It just speaks through pain and discomfort. So I always tell people, it's like your body will, people will say, "Oh, I just coughed," or "I just reached for something and my back went out." It's like, well, your back has probably been speaking to you for a really long time, and it pokes you and pokes you. And are you paying attention? Are you paying attention? I mean, this is for everything in your body, right? And then it speaks louder. And then we're like, no, I'll do that later. I'm fine. I can handle this. I'm tough, right? And then it speaks louder and it starts hitting you louder. And then it hits you with a 2x4 and says, "Are you paying attention?" And that's usually where, say the cancers and whatever, jump in, right? So it's like, okay.
And that's where we say, okay, I'm listening.
That's it. Because that was me, right? I was a big smoker, ate fast food like crazy. And then every day I was quitting smoking, every day I didn't. And then I looked in the mirror one day, I quit smoking for a few hours, looked in the mirror, I got in my car a few hours later, found a half a cigarette, lit it up. And I was like, "You idiot, what would it take for you to quit smoking?" And that's when I found out 2 weeks later I had cancer. Be careful what you put out there, right? So our body is speaking to us all the time.
All the time. Yes. And we're ignoring most of the time. And I mean, we use the term enlightenment. To be honest, I never really liked it. I never thought that was a great term, because I felt like a light bulb. Wait, what is it? The switch just turned on, and now I'm playing with the lampshade. I mean, tell me, I don't quite get this whole enlightenment thing. But I was just I was just listening to the audiobook of Michael Singer's The Untethered Soul.
That's a great book.
Isn't that a good one? And he made a really interesting point about this. He said, enlightenment is really just being centered. Which takes all of the mystery out, but it takes all the fear out too. Like, oh, well, I can be centered. I don't have to get an advanced degree in something in order to be centered. It's not like I have to have, a special dispensation from Buddha or Jesus or something. I can be centered, and then I'm enlightened. Okay, well, I can handle that.
Yeah, that seems very simple the way you put it now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be so complicated.
Exactly. So I mean, I know people like calling it enlightened, and that's fine. It just, for me, it's like, But let's just get down to the brass tacks. What am I really doing here?
Yeah. I never really understood like that before. Now I understand now. Like even with the going within.
Yeah.
It's like go within what?
Go within what, right?
What do you mean go within? I don't know where I'm going within to.
The one that confused me was listening within. Listen to what? The only thing there is my voice. What are you talking about?
Why don't you just say like listen to your heart? But then even saying listening to your heart, it was like, well, what does that mean? My heart's beating. I know that. And sometimes it beats
thump.
Right? But I'm finally starting to understand it more as I continue on this journey of healing the past wounds, we'll call them, right? So that's awesome. So are you doing anything else? Like, so you're doing the podcast like daily, right? You said? That's so cool.
It's the best kind of addiction.
Isn't it? I know I'm getting more. Now you're getting me inspired to do even more. I'm already doing it once a week. So sometimes it's like, well,
that's what I did. My first 3 years, I did it once a week. And I finally realized this isn't enough.
There's so many amazing
people. I need more than this. I mean, because I love it every time I do an episode. Why am I limiting myself to only experiencing it once a week?
This is true. You got a point on that.
Yeah.
And there's so many amazing people to connect with.
There's tons.
Yep. Oh gosh, my battery's about to die. Oh no.
No, plug it in. But there are tons of people. There are just tons of people who want to do what we're doing. Come onto a show and tell their story and experience and share perspectives. And in the doing of that, all of a sudden we find we need the next dose, and then the next dose, and then the next. And the best part is you don't have to go to a clinic and dry out.
I know, right?
Right?
This is the best kind of addiction.
It is.
I love. Sorry, go ahead.
It's addiction without negative consequences.
And you don't need drugs. You get just the high of life, the energy.
Yeah, it's actually good for you, which is kind of an unusual concept.
Right? Lifts the spirits, lifts the, it does that. Do you have any bloopers? I was thinking of that earlier. I was like, what if you have, because you've been doing this for so long, right? Like,
oh yeah.
I don't know why I'm just thinking of that now, but I'm just like,
I mean, I don't have any really like prepared or anything like that, but I can think of a number of times where, things just bloop. There have been a few shows where in the middle of the show, we lost power. Well, we'll be back. There have been shows where my wife ducked in and thought that I was done with the show. We were still on the show, and I said, "Oh, I'm still doing the show. Oh, I'll be back." You
just gotta laugh, right?
Yeah.
That about it.
Well, that's part of the training, really.
Yeah.
Because really, what we're trying to do as people learning to become enlightened, we're trying to learn how to let go of negative reactions to stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff happens. How are you going to respond to it? Because that's the power that we really have, that power of response. That's where the power comes from, our ability to decide how we're going to respond. And if we continue to respond to negative things negatively, we're going to get more negatives. Yeah. But if we can find a way to respond to it differently, doesn't have to be positively, just differently, just, shaking it up a bit, then we start getting different results.
Yeah.
And when we realize that that's actually happening, that's when we gain that true enlightenment. That's when we begin to finally realize, it isn't the stuff that's out there. And when they say it's in me, what they really mean is, how am I responding to stuff?
Yeah.
That's what the in me is all about. How do I respond?
Yeah. It's so true. And like I remember, the very first time I was a guest on a show, and it was during the, I don't know, first, second, third, I don't know. No, it was during the first lockdown. And my friend goes, you got to go on these podcasts, and I'm like, I don't know what to say. Like, anyway, so I decided to be a guest. Well, it doesn't fail. My dog starts, like, I think it was within like 5-10 minutes of it. My dog starts barking. And I'm like, oh my God. So here I am, like kind of, throwing things at him because he likes to live on the couch. Anyway, and I'm throwing things at him. And I threw it. I think I had a glove or something. And I'm looking at the corner of my eye because I also want to do the show, right? And not say, excuse me, hold on a minute while I save my dog.
Right.
There he was shredding the stuff that I kept smoking. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, or looking, going, oh God, I hope he's okay and doesn't eat that, doesn't cause a vet bill, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that one was pretty funny. And then I used to get really nervous going on these, like on the shows and stuff, like whether it be mine or somebody. I think it was more of mine. And then my friend goes, well, stop saying that you're nervous. This is an exciting thing.
How about that?
Right. And I was like, I just had to shift what I was thinking in my mind of like, oh my God, I'm nervous. Instead going, I'm excited because these are like butterflies and stuff. And that made life so much easier once I changed that. Right. So some great tips. And then, same thing. One time I was on a guest on, I think it was on somebody else's, and we were still chatting. The show ended and he forgot to click the end button, and we're still like just gabbing about anything, right? Anyway, it was kind of funny.
It happens, all kinds of stuff. Actually, my co-host and I have mentioned a number of different times, we really should be recording the after shows. I mean, they're the shows that nobody ever hears other than us. But some of the best stuff comes out in those conversations. You know what I mean?
Like what?
Oh, like
if you can think of something offhand.
You had a topic that you were talking about, and then after the show, somebody says something that's so insightful on the same topic. Like, why didn't we think of that during the show? That would have been perfect. That happens a lot. It's amazing how often that happens.
Got it.
Sometimes we get ideas for future shows on the after show. Sometimes I get new contacts sometimes. I had a guest on. Most guests love being on the show, and they'll tell me afterward. And then, some of them will say, I got a friend who I think would be great for your show. Like, okay, yeah, send me a link. Let me know who they are.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff happens.
Yeah.
Simply because you're doing an after show.
Oh, I love it.
And having a good time.
Yeah. Well, it is fun, isn't it? Like
it is.
It's you definitely meet interesting people and stuff. I think I'd like to collect some bloopers. How funny that would be. Like, I wonder if people do that, and just like have this show of bloopers.
I maybe I should go through my collection and just see what I've got. I mean, because there's like a bunch of them.
I would love to see that. Usually with mine, it's the dog barking or my cat walking across. I think that might have happened at your show where my cat was trying to, walk across my table and the tail.
Oh, my cat has done that. Yeah. Basically saying, why are you paying attention to those people? You should be paying attention to me.
Yeah. Hello, I'm the cat.
That's it. Cats rule, so.
Yeah, that they definitely do. Oh, amazing. What kind of guests do you like to have on your show? For anybody who's watching, like reach out to Walt.
It's funny because I focused very heavily on law of attraction because that's what the topic was for probably the first 400 or 500 episodes. And then I realized, well, we've pretty much done it all. What do I want to do next? And that's when I almost instantly, this was a message from source, I'm sure it was. I almost instantly realized, well, the law of attraction touches every area of life. Why don't you do your podcast about every area of life? And I instantly resonated with that. I loved that idea. So to answer your question, my guests are from every area of life.
Got it.
And that's fun. Talk about getting different perspectives.
Right. Yeah, I'm reading that. Well, actually, I'm going to go back to reading this book for the, I think, third time called Energy of Money.
Oh, okay.
Have you read that one?
I don't know that one, but I like the title.
Yeah, it's interesting when it comes to money and the law of attraction. Actually, I think that was my first Esther Hicks audio.
Money and the Law of Attraction? Yeah, that was my second one. Yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay, yeah, that was my first one that I listened to. Oh, that was great. Banging on the drum. But yeah, like just learning about
yeah, that's right, the phrase. I love that phrase.
Yeah. So my friend goes, when I first got introduced, she's like, Karen, go download this book, Money, Law of Attraction by Esther Hicks or Abraham Hicks. And I think it was like, listen to chapter 8. And it was all about banging on the drum. How do you keep repeating that same scenario over and over and over again, right?
Yep.
But this, the energy of money, because that's sort of what I'm going through, like working on the not like, when am I in lack? When am I living in that scarcity? Right? Because it happens in
I always know when I'm living in lack. It's very clear to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a whole lot to figure out.
No, it really actually, now that you mention it, doesn't. But sometimes I don't catch myself and it's like,
Mm.
oh, wow. Well, all of a sudden it's like, oh, look at that. I'm, freaking out because of whatever,
Yeah.
and then it's like, I actually don't need to. Why am I living in scarcity right now? So
I think it's a great point though, because no matter how much work we do on ourselves, we slip up. We're
we're
still learning.
humans.
We're still figuring this stuff out. We're still trying to get better. We're still trying to get to the point that we really want to be at. And it's an ongoing journey. It almost never really stops, I think.
Yeah,
As
I
long as we're
agree.
in physical anyway. I'm not sure what happens after we get to non-physical, but
No, and I don't really want to find out anytime soon. I'm kind of liking this part of the journey, right? Because it's just, yeah, every time I learn something or feel a new feeling, it's like, what is that? I didn't know that. Like, yeah, feelings can be a whole other topic too, right? Like, I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
if you've ever experienced feelings where you go, what was that? Like, is
All the
that
time.
anger? Is that sad? Like, I don't know what that is. You get
All
that
the
all the
time.
time?
Yeah.
So cool.
That-
And
I think probably the hardest thing for me is labeling what feeling that is. Is it joy? Is it happiness? Is it optimism? Is it, what is it? And no matter what one I pick, it's like, well, it's kind of that one, but it's also kind of this one. And
Mm.
same thing with the negatives. What am I feeling? What am I feeling right now? Am I feeling disappointed, angry, frustrated? Well, yeah, all of them. Why do I have to pick one?
I just picked them all. Kind of just feel like yucky.
Well, yeah. And that's what I concluded. I finally realized I don't have to pick what word fits it. All I have to do, and actually, Esther Hicks says this, there are really only two emotions. You either feel good or you feel bad. Which is it?
Yeah. So
And
true.
once I nailed it down that way, well, heck, I can handle that one. I can tell you most of the time whether I'm feeling good or feeling bad. Sometimes I'm even confused about that. But
Right.
most of the time, I can tell you, I'm feeling, if nothing else, I can tell you, well, I'm feeling a little bad or I'm feeling a little
Mhm.
good.
Got it.
Yeah,
I like that. That makes life so much easier, right?
it does.
We
Oh,
have to.
yeah.
I remember one day I was like standing here, and all of a sudden these tears came down. I'm like,
Oh,
huh, what are these tears? And I was like, what is this? Like, I didn't feel
Mhm.
sad. It wasn't like a happy or joy. It wasn't a sad. It wasn't a. And then I realized it was a forgiveness
Oh, wow.
on something. And I was like, and that little voice, we need to listen to the little voice that guides us in the right direction, not sabotages us, but
Well,
and
that
it
was always a confusing point to be perfectly honest.
is the
Which
little
voice was the voice? That was the
right.
question I kept trying to answer. And I would ask people on my show about it. I'd ask anybody who was into this stuff that I could finally talk to what they thought it was. And I got all kinds of opinions, some more helpful, some less helpful. One day, one of my co-hosts gave me an answer, and it was the one that resonated with me, the one that really stuck. And all she said was, does the voice feel good? If it feels good, it's the inner voice. If it doesn't, it's your ego. Like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I
Right.
can handle that one.
I love it. I love it. But that's how it was said to me too. Listen to the
Really?
one that's yeah, listen to the one that's kind.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
in the not in the I mean in the right direction, not the
Right,
little
right.
that says you're an idiot, you're stupid, you're fat, you're
Ugh.
whatever, right? Like the ego that's going, you're not good enough.
Mhm.
Don't listen to that one. Or the one, I can't do this. I'm not that kind of person. It's like, really? Maybe you are, and you just don't know it yet, right? So
That's the one the singer talks about a lot in his book. And I love his point about it. He says, it's just a voice.
yeah.
It's all it is. It's just a voice. You don't have to pay attention to it.
Yeah, we can tell it we can tell it to shush, shush, shush. I've had to do that a few times too, where you're tossing and turning in your sleep or whatever. Your voice is the mind is like, I call it the monkey mind, and it's
Mhm.
just like 800 miles an hour. And I remember one time in particular where it was like, just shut up, you
I've done that.
are my friend.
Yeah.
Like, just
Yeah.
be quiet. And then it just went, "Blah." And I'm like, okay, apparently I need to go for a walk and hug a tree or
There you
something.
go. There you go. Yeah.
Or take my shoes off and get grounded. But it works.
Whatever it takes to feel better in that moment. That's
Yeah.
really all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Throw on some music. When you get like that, I don't know, do guys' minds go crazy like that? I know women's do.
Oh God, we're humans. Of course they do.
There was a comedian I watched. on YouTube. I think it was Michael Gunther. I think
Mhm.
was his name. And he talks about men and women and how our brains are different. Like we're a mismatch of wiring, and men are very, and not to be, I hope this doesn't sound disrespectful, but very simple, right? It's like they don't, I don't know. This is what he said, right? Anyway, and everything, it was like, do men's minds go 800 million miles a minute?
Of course they do.
Do they? Oh, okay. I was just
Of
curious.
course.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
You know what? You know what the one of
Well,
the
you're
best.
human too.
Absolutely. How about that? Hey, well, who knew? No,
Oh,
no,
that's
one
awesome.
of the best pieces of advice I ever got on this topic, because there are a lot of people who like to say, well, men are this way, women are that way. And there's a lot of different differentiations of that kind. But the best one I ever heard was it was a basically half joke. And the joke went like this: there are two kinds of people in the world: those who divide the world into two kinds of people, and those who do not.
Oh, I love that.
And when you recognize the truth of that, then you realize I don't have to listen to the people who divide the world into two kinds of people. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. Don't you love the simplicity of everything?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you
Does
said
it
I'm male simple. Yeah, I'll buy into it. Sure. I am simple. I love simple. Simple's
Yeah.
so much easier than hard.
Right? I was just kind of curious. I'm like, dude, men, like, because that's how he puts it, right? Like, men is very simple. They have their box for everything, and they have a nothing box. It was very funny to watch.
A
Anyway,
nothing box.
a nothing box where a guy can just like and say, tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm obviously not a guy, but where they can actually think about nothing. Like if we say, oh, like what do you think about nothing? Well, apparently guys, according to this guy, said that guys can actually think of nothing. And I'm like, that's
Well,
amazing. How does that
I don't think
work?
it's just guys. I think anybody can learn to calm their mind. And so in that
Yes.
sense, that is thinking about nothing.
Yeah.
Um, I also think that a lot of times when people say they're thinking about nothing, what they're actually doing is thinking about something they don't want to tell you about.
Now the truth comes out.
And I don't think it's
God,
just males either.
this is true. Nothing. I'm not thinking about anything. It's like, well,
It's the
actually, yeah,
classic answer to the parent, who asks, "What'd you do at school today?" Nothing.
So you sat there for 8 hours
That's
doing
right.
absolutely nothing. Oh, that's so funny. Well, I'm glad you clarified that because that's what I
My
always
pleasure.
that's what I had in my head because according to this YouTube guy, that's what he says, right? So
I've learned that YouTube is completely untrustworthy.
I know it so is, eh?
It really is. And I'll give you an example. There are certain sports teams that I follow, and the people who put up videos related to sports teams are classic fake newsers, because they'll put up a video and they'll put up a headline about what somebody says in the video, and you play the entire video and they never said it.
Oh wow. Yeah, I guess yeah.
But the headline is in some way titillating or, controversial or something. So they draw you in with a fake headline, and then the conversation has absolutely nothing to do with the headline.
Oh, wow.
And it's not just in sports. I mean, it's in a wide range of topics and areas. So yeah, I've gotten to the point where I don't trust YouTube at all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is true. I mean, I don't go on YouTube a ton. I'm starting to get on there a little bit more and learning more about YouTube, but that's
I
good.
do like what my wife uses YouTube for. She has a video that she found of a cat sleeping and has very calm music in the background. She uses that to go to sleep when she needs to take a nap. And you listen to it like, oh my God, I got to leave the room or I'm going to fall asleep, because
Wow,
it's
that's amazing.
very soothing, very, very soothing.
Oh, and it's a cat video or cat.
It's a video of a cat sleeping, and there it comes in. I think they do a series of them, because I saw one where there's a cat sleeping on a bed, and there's a second one where there's a cat sleeping on a beach, and there was a third one sleeping out in nature somewhere. And they basically take like 20 minutes of it and put it on a loop, so it just plays endlessly, with this very gentle music in the background.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go check that out.
Yeah, yeah, very, very cool. I like that. So not that there's no good stuff on YouTube. It's just that I just don't trust stuff. I always ask myself, is this true? Does that make sense? And very often the answer is nope, doesn't make sense at all. Sorry, goodbye.
Got it. Yeah, I just I don't know. I never really went to YouTube for much for the longest time. It's only in the last couple of years, like people are like, because I'd be like, how do I do this? I don't know, go YouTube it. was like, oh yeah, I
which
forget
is
this.
often useful. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's amazing.
You have
Very
to kind of
cool.
use your spidey sense, you
Yeah.
know?
Are you telling the truth?
Yeah.
Or are you faking me out?
hmm hmm
Are we telling the truth on this show today? Or are we faking you guys out?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm telling my truth and you're telling your truth. So I think, yeah, we're telling the truth.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Or I know so. Anyway,
That's the
well,
challenge with truth, though.
that's yeah, really. Whose truth is it?
Whose truth is it? Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's so true. Like, what is the truth? I don't
Mm.
know. I'm still learning. I'm learning what my truth is. Speak your truth. Well, don't I always speak my truth? There's another conversation.
Oh, boy, you can
Speaking
do a whole
your
show on that
truth,
one.
right? I
Yeah.
know. It's like I had a client the other day and we were chatting about, he's complaining about people being dishonest and this and that. And
Mm.
as we know, things are like a mere reflection of ourselves,
Which is
right?
really annoying. Yes.
Isn't it?
It
Oh,
is.
sometimes I'm like, oh, does this really have to be a reflection on me? Can it just be that?
Right.
Does it always have to come back to me? And this is my stuff. It's so true. But anyway, where was I going with that? What were we talking about? All right, the being honest. So then I was like, okay, so if you feel like people are cheating you and lying to you and this and whatever the conversation was, were you doing this to yourself? He goes, well, I'm always honest with myself. And I said, okay. So I said, have you ever said you're going to do something and not? And he goes, well, yeah, all the time. I said, well, then you're not being honest with yourself. And your subconscious mind is like, I don't believe you. I don't trust you because you're
Mhm.
always lying to me, right? When that was brought to my, because I was like, because I was the same, right? I always speak my truth. I'm always honest. Like I'm honest to people all the time. Yeah, but Karen, are you honest to yourself? And I said, what do you mean? And same thing, right? And I was like, oh, I get it now, right? So,
One of the things I learned along the way is that we are probably best described as super heavyweight champions at beating ourselves up.
I know, right?
We're really good at it. I mean, if it were a resume skill, everybody would have it on their resume because it's just we are all so darn good at it.
Right?
And of course, in the process of doing that, all we're really doing is undermining ourselves just by beating ourselves up all the time. But one of the things I've learned along the way is that the more that I can kind of take myself out of these situations where I ask, well, am I being honest? Am I being truthful? Is it the other person? Is it me? And so forth. All I end up doing is kind of tying myself up in knots every time I ask those questions.
Yeah.
So I've started changing it around in my mind over the last year or two, saying instead of asking, is it the right or wrong thing? Is it good or bad? Is it true or not true? I ask myself, is it what I like or what I don't like?
I
Is it
love
what I
that.
prefer or what I don't prefer? Because that takes all the baggage away.
Mm-hmm.
That takes all the junk away that we carry along with it. And when I can limit myself to asking and answering the question that way, all of a sudden the questions don't feel painful anymore.
I like
And
that.
the answers feel good.
Yeah.
And even the stuff that I don't like, this is the best part. The stuff that I don't like, yeah, I don't like it, but I don't really care all that much.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before it was, oh my God, I really hate this thing. But now it's like, oh, I don't like that, but thanks anyway.
Yeah.
Big energy shift.
Yeah.
Just from thinking about it in terms of like and dislike rather than right and wrong, true or false, bad or good.
Yeah.
All that stuff that just trips the heck out of us.
Yeah. Keep it simple, eh?
Yeah.
So what is it? Does it make me feel, no, what is it that you said?
Do I like it or do I not like it?
Yeah. Do I like it
Does it
or
feel
do I
good or
not?
does it not feel good? Those
Yeah.
are two different ways of basically saying the same thing.
Yeah. Does it bring me joy? Does it bring me happiness?
Exactly.
Or is it bringing me like anger or whatever, right?
Yeah. And then when I combine that with the
I like that.
recognition that when something comes along that I don't like, it's okay to feel that I don't like it. It's okay to feel angry about it. The only thing that I really want to avoid is living in the anger.
Yeah.
Staying there,
Yeah.
endlessly. But it's okay to feel it for a little bit. And if I'm willing to feel it for a little bit, a funny thing happens. It goes away.
Right? Weird how this happens. I just get bored of it. Like that's like it's like, okay, I don't want to be in this anymore. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and it's okay if you're in it a day or two or whatever.
But ironically, if you aren't willing to feel it, that's when you hang on to it.
Yeah.
Which is really strange, but that's the way it works.
Right?
Yeah.
Being a human is strange sometimes.
It
Isn't
is.
it?
This is a crazy experience. Anyone
Yeah.
who says this is logical has no idea what they're talking about.
No, none. That's so true. It's not logic. Whose logic? Oh my gosh, how fun, how fun. Well, Walt, we're coming to the end of this show, and
Oh,
I know. Well, we're gonna have to do it again because I really enjoy having, and maybe
it's
we could
fun.
have, I would love to try like having a couple people. That would be really cool. Because I
It's
haven't
great.
done
Try it with 3. Do
three.
3. There
Okay.
is something. I mean, there's like what we're doing here. It's magical. We can just kind of go with the flow and so forth. But when you do it with 3, there's something. It's like going to another level, and I can't
Got
explain it better than that.
it.
But
Got it.
the energy level just rises. The excitement level rises. Everybody becomes more engaged, more involved, as if you could get more involved than we are right now. But you really do.
Right? Yeah. Well, now you have another perspective in there too, right?
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
somebody else asking questions
Yeah.
and stuff. And one thing I
Yeah.
love about doing these shows is that you have no idea where the conversation is going to go,
Yep.
which is the best part, right? Like it's
Do,
not.
do you ever do what I do? Like if I'm doing a show with somebody, it doesn't happen too often, but every once in a while I'll be interviewing somebody. I'm not really sure where to go with it next. And what I've learned to do in that situation is open my mouth and see what comes out.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
Have
that's
you
happening.
have you
Yeah.
done that? That's
Yeah.
really fun.
It's
That's
like,
because actually some amazing wisdom comes out. That's got to be inner voice coming in, right?
yeah.
But amazing stuff. I remember the first time I did it, and I almost never play back my own episodes, but I had to play that one back because I wanted to find out, did it make sense? Was it coherent?
Because in
And
my
it
mind,
turned out not only did it make sense, it was great. Like, where did that come from?
man, I'm so smart.
Who knew?
Oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah, sometimes I've done that where it's like, okay, there's a little bit of quietness. Now what? What's gonna come out next? Right. So, but I had one guest, I'll just share. I had one guest, great guy. I didn't understand one word he talked about. Like, I can't even tell you now what he talked about. Like, I was like, what is this all? I mean, it was fascinating to listen to him, but I had no idea what he was talking about. Zero. Right. And I probably, if I was to go back and listen to it, I still have no idea what it is. I was like, this is amazing. Right. So I'm like, please dummy this down even more. Right. Dummy it down even more. Right? Anyway, it was kind of funny, but it's okay. I was like, this is amazing, like to be in this guy's brain. And I still don't know what he's saying to me, but that's okay. I'm like, just him. I'm sure he might catch little bits and pieces of something. Anyway, but so yeah. So Walt, how do people find you? Yeah, how do people get
Well,
connected
it's so
with you?
difficult. Mine is probably the hardest show in the world to find because you have to open a podcast platform to find it. And we're on all of them. Just search for LOA today and you'll find it. It just pops right up.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That's pretty simple. Even I
It's
can,
about as simple
even
as
I
it
can do that.
It's like my wife's complicated recipes. She keeps threatening to make a cookbook someday of her complicated recipes because complicated recipes are recipes that take about 5 minutes.
Oh, I love those. Those are my favorite recipes.
Right.
Simple. I love it. Very cool. Very cool. Well, do you have any words of wisdom? What does freedom mean to you before we jump off here?
My word of wisdom is have fun.
I love that.
I mean, it's the best thing you can do. And honestly, we don't always succeed. We don't always pull it off, but make it the goal.
Yeah.
And if you can't get to have fun, then try to aim for something a little bit lower. Aim for feeling better. But the end goal is always have fun.
Yeah.
Because if you can do that, then you're high vibe. And when you're high vibe, you get everything you're looking for.
It's amazing, how this stuff works.
Yeah. Talk about simplicity, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Be in a good mood. Find things that lift your spirits. Throw on some happy music.
Yep.
And change your vibration, change your energy, and you'd be amazed at what shows up.
That's basically what Rhonda Byrne did at the end of The Secret. She's drawing in the sand. She's writing the words "feel good."
Love it.
basically the same thing.
I'll watch that again. I haven't watched that in years.
I do you have the copy that has Esther Hicks in it? I got both copies now.
I don't know. I think it's on. Is it on YouTube? Is it on Netflix? The Secret, or is that just?
I think it is. It was at one point. I'm not sure if it still is.
I can't remember.
But,
It's
but,
been a
but
long.
I got the DVD. I would talk about old technology. I got the DVD, both the Esther Hicks version and the non-Esther Hicks version, so I could compare them side by side, which is pretty cool. Yeah,
that's very cool. Very cool. Awesome. All righty, my friend. Well, we are coming to the end, and I always love chatting with you, and I love this new friendship that we're building.
Yeah.
And very cool. And I'll be definitely reaching out again.
And thank you so much for having me on your show, and thank you for all that you do too. Not just for the guests that you have and so forth, but you have all your listeners, many of whom you've never met, you've never seen them, but you're helping them too. So on their behalf, thank you for what you're doing.
And thank you as well. And we are doing this to make a difference, really, right?
Right. Yeah.
At the end of the day. So thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And we will talk soon.
All righty.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
All right. Well, that wraps up another day, another episode of Freedom Starts Now. I hope you enjoyed this. I so loved chatting with Walt. And at the end of the day, you have this life. Enjoy it. Find the things that bring you joy and happiness, and get rid of the stuff that does not serve you anymore. So thank you again for listening, and we will see you next Thursday at 1:00 Eastern Time. Bye for now.
Thank you for watching Freedom Starts Now with Karen Theimer, only on the Breakthrough Show Network. Please visit our website at thebreakthroughshow.com to catch all past episodes and, of course, connect with Karen. Until next time, break free and find freedom.